The archetype of Saturn has to do with being sent to school for all the years of your life, being sent on a school bus for your young years trying to figure things out. Saturn has to do with everything that restricts you or keeps you in a box, sort of thing. And there's a paradoxical nature with Saturn because it brings upon experience, but it also imprisons you. And it really is the lesson that you actually learn from school actually doesn't have to do with the grades you get on a test. You see, that is Saturn working its way out. Really, what you're trying to do is you don't want to be trapped in these rings of Saturn because this is the stress and this is the anxiety and this is the way everybody else acts. But you see, what you learn very small bits at a time is how to not be politically correct. Because Saturn is political, right? He's the same old average everyday person. But the heretic in the day is the hero of tomorrow. That's why when you're on Saturn, when you're taking these tests and when you're stressing yourself out and when you feel I am being boxed in by my situations, that's how it transfers itself on the matrix. But you got to get this telescope out and you look towards Uranus because Uranus is rebellion. Anybody who stands up and says something, does something different, decides that there's something more important than my homework, there's something more important than this government restriction thing. The whole purpose of Saturn really is to introduce you to Uranus. Very plainly, because Uranus is also revelation and a higher awareness. So these bring with us the structures of the signs, sort of like themes or motifs that play out in your life when you're discussing Saturn or the themes of Capricorn. Capricorn is this progressive realization. What it's trying to do is it's trying to mature itself because Saturn is also experience. Someone who is a very Saturnine figure is not as much restricting, but as well, it is a voice of someone who has engaged in human experience and stuff. So I would look at the kids in school and all this Capricorn nature, all this trying to strive for better in my life, trying to impress people, trying to go with the crowd, and Capricorn's also complaining. So you see these themes play out. People who are stressing themselves out with this earthly Capricorn, this practical Capricorn, and they're constantly striving to be something better than somebody else. But yet at the same time, they're also realizing the ways of life, the patterns of life, uh, and they're also, on top of it, Capricorn is also maturity. But when we're in Uranus now, we're working with the planet Uranus, we're thinking of the kids that are sent to the principal's office. We're thinking of the kids who go out of their way to make a special presentation or say something in class or stand up against injustice or something that is impractical. And this is where we get our innovations in life, our technology, our computer, our electric hookup. So what Saturn really is doing, and from the second that they put you on that bus, even if they don't consciously realizing it, is they're trying to teach you how to be, how to see the structure, how to see the rings of Saturn that have tangled everybody. And our moon, people don't realize that the moon has to do with habits and patterns. And you can learn things by repetition, by practice around the moon. And this actually creates cycles out in your life. So if your whole lunar cycle is a Saturn cycle, if it's all about work, no play, it's all about impressing people, it's all about you're never good enough. You always have to be something better. You're always looking to go higher. There's always a position above you. There's always something to obtain to. And yet you look out and you see that this planet wasn't discovered until it was either the 17 or 1800s. Uranus in the sky. And it comes with it this higher awareness, psychological, ready-minded, one that seeks past the individual, one that sees that they do have free will to make change in society. So I always thought the smartest kids in class were the ones who broke down the structure. And Saturn is also the karma and learning, cause and effect in the physical and spiritual universe. So there is consequence for these actions. If you obtain a high goal to get a good grade on a test and you don't study the night before because you're innovating, you're into this Aquarian thinking, transcendental idea sort of thing. Well, you're spending so much time with Uranus, you're gaining some Saturn experience that when I take my eye off of what I'm actually doing, if it is worthwhile here, what our structure, what our limitations are. See, the whole Saturn system sort of falls apart when you realize, oh, what they're training you in school for is to go to college, is to take out these massive loans. And what you do when you're a wonderful college student is you look down on people whose brain isn't making the connections that yours is making. Because the brain wires itself to what it's taught, you see. And this is the nature of what the word we call brainwashing, which is just a word, is actually conditioning. If it comes from inspiration, a type of learning, that's where we'll get to Jupiter a little bit later. What you have to do is go off of things from inside you. But with the Saturn structure, you sit through 8 classes a day. Each one you have things to do at night. You never really get much of an education in either one until you decide what you want to specialize in. If there's something that pulls your Jupiter on you. But really what it is, they actually sit you down in an economy class. They call the class economy in 11th grade. And then they teach these students about the nature of credit and debit and actually taking control of your life and managing your finances, an accounting course in 12th grade. And what do all the kids do? The way Saturn surrounds you is Saturn's also like a crowd of followers, the sheep so much. And they're billy goats, they're mountain goats. And everybody in your life, in your matrix life, bringing this electrical impulse of Saturn surrounds you. And they smile as if they almost know what they're doing, even though they really don't. But there's a subconscious, intuitive understanding that what they're doing is saying, okay, now it's time to go to college. So what you can do is you can make enough money, you can buy a car and a house, which you will pay off by your job, so you can obtain the greatness that is Social Security when it is decided for you that you are now stable and independent. So we get this economy course, and we realize the nature of how the market needs to be stimulated with new ideas and new adventures. And what we're doing is we're propping up the whole Saturn system. They say, why don't you go to college? We'll do anything. You can go to college. This is what brings the pride and the nationalism, which is also a Saturn structure. We'll do anything. We'll sell our house. We'll sell our farm. We'll sell our Saturn structure so we can throw you into massive, massive debt. So you have a greater problem when you're dead. Take out all these student loans from the reserve. Will print them for you. They'll print money up just for you that will become debt, your debt to society through this brain rewiring that we'll put you through in our college courses. And the nature of Uranus is also learning how to be independent, learning how to, our Aquarian, put your own food on the table, learn how to be independent, learn, and that's an American ideal too, freedom, prosperity, learning how from within you how to do things. And there are definitely consequences to going off from Saturn as an astronaut and headed towards Uranus, because the sheep, the people who are stuck in the rings of Saturn, who say, well, you might have a lot of good ideas and stuff, and life may be fun, but that doesn't pay my bills and that doesn't feed my children. Well, you got to watch out for those people, because in time, when they're ready, and as the moon circles each month, there's Uranian aspects. And you got to realize in people, even the most snuggest, snubbest, glasses on the edge of their nose, finger pointing, they do have these Aquarian impulses. No matter who you are, we all have the same planets in the sky. So this is this process of individualizing. Because if you want to come to somebody with a hard problem, you're going to come to somebody who's had experience, who's been in the complaint, who's been in the cause and effect, who's seen the value of learning a circle, of knowing how a cycle works out, of knowing how the water cycle works, of knowing how the ecosystem works. Someone who's ingrained into the ecosystem of their life, who've learned a certain something. But in progression, in the same way that we're trying to explore the solar system, we have these planets dormant, but we focus and we store certain archetypes, certain matrices of reality to them, and we assign words, and we take on this fascination. Uranus is sort of like a fascination. So what we're trying to do, we see those funky rings out there. Everybody is trying to break out of this structure. In the same way, we also have Saturnian aspects each time the moon goes around the circle, but they bring us into higher levels. They obtain us to higher names, a higher vocabulary. The more words you learn, the more languages you learn. A language itself is a Saturn structure, something that inhibits you and keeps you in. But we are looking for Uranus. And in our evolutionary trek, it's only been the past 300 years since when we saw it in the sky, we were ready to feel it inside. We were ready to understand it. And then with that came the planets Neptune and Pluto as well. So these are the archetypal natures of Capricorn. And they're dynamic. You can't say, I'm a Capricorn, because a Capricorn keeps their books. A Capricorn is always looking for a new venture. A Capricorn's always got their ear open for a good idea that they can take, and looking for a tip in any way. And Aquarius is trying with their mind to make their own connections, to wire their brain their own way off of their own soul, their own interconnectedness. Because when you believe in yourself, you are powerful beyond belief.